The frigid wind howled outside Michael's tiny apartment, rattling the windows. He pulled his threadbare robe tighter, gazing out of the shadowy street. Something caught his eye, a small, shivering figure huddled on the sidewalk. Without a second thought, he rushed out and draped his coat around the child's shoulders. The boy looked up at him with wide, frightened eyes. "Thank you, mister," he stammered, teeth chattering. Michael smiled gently. "You must be freezing out here. Where are your parents?" The child just shook his head, burrowing into the coat. As Michael guided him inside, a chill ran down his spine. Little did he know that this simple act of kindness would soon put his life in grave peril. The next morning, just before dawn, a thunderous knock jolted Michael awake. Heart pounding, he peered through the peephole, only to find a towering, muscular figure standing on his doorstep. Swallowing hard, he pulled open the door. A pair of piercing eyes locked onto his. "You're the one who gave my little brother his coat last night," the man rumbled, voice like gravel. Michael's blood ran cold. This was no ordinary person. This was the notorious Hell Angel, the ruthless leader of the most feared biker gang in the city. Panic seized him, but he forced himself to speak. "Yes, that was me. I couldn't let him freeze out there." The Hell Angel's expression was unreadable. "You shouldn't have done that." He took a step forward, and Michael instinctively stepped back, heart racing. "Please, I didn't mean any harm," Michael pleaded. "I was just trying to help." The biker studied him for a long, agonizing moment. Then, to Michael's bewilderment, the corner of his mouth twitched upward in the faintest of smiles. "You've got guts, old man. Most people would have turned tail and run by now." Michael could only stare, utterly perplexed. The Hell Angel's massive frame filled the doorway, his imposing presence flooding the tiny apartment. This was the most feared criminal in the city, yet he seemed almost amused. "You've got a kid of your own, don't you?" the biker said suddenly. Michael nodded mutely, mind whirling. How did he know that? "Then you'll understand." The Hell Angel's gaze softened, just for a moment. "My little brother, he's all I've got left." He sighed heavily. "Anyway, I just wanted to make sure you knew what you were getting into." He turned to leave, then paused. "You're a brave man, Janitor. Don't let that get you killed." With that, he was gone, leaving Michael shaken and bewildered. What on earth had just happened? And what did the Hell Angel mean by that ominous warning? Over the next few days, Michael found himself constantly on edge, jumping at every unexpected sound. He couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched. Had the Hell Angel's visit been a veiled threat? Would the gang come after him and his son? Then, one evening, his phone rang. Steeling himself, he answered. "Hello?" "Mr. Jones?" a gruff voice responded.
"This is Detective Alvarez. I need to talk to you about an incident that occurred a few nights ago." Michael's heart sank. "What incident?" "You gave your coat to a young boy on the street. That boy happens to be the younger brother of the notorious gang leader known as the Hell Angel." Michael's mouth went dry. I was just trying to help. I didn't know who he was." "I understand, but your actions have put you in a very dangerous position," the detective warned. "The Hell Angel is not known for his mercy. You need to be extremely careful from now on." "What should I do?" Michael asked, voice trembling. "Lay low. Don't draw any attention to yourself, and pray that the Hell Angel doesn't decide to retaliate," Alvarez said grimly. "I'll do what I can to keep an eye on the situation, but there's only so much I can do. This is a powerful and ruthless man we're dealing with." Michael hung up the phone, his hands shaking. He had to get his son out of here, away from this nightmare. But where could they go? The Hell Angel's reach was legendary. There was no guarantee they would be safe anywhere. In the days that followed, Michael lived in constant fear, jumping at every noise, every shadow. He kept his son close, terrified that the gang would come for them. The boy sensed his father's anxiety and grew increasingly anxious himself. Then, one morning, a familiar figure appeared on their doorstep. Michael's heart nearly stopped as the massive form of the Hell Angel loomed before him. But please," Michael stammered, I haven't done anything. Just leave us alone." The biker held up a hand. "Relax, old man. I'm not here to hurt you." He paused, then continued. "I wanted to thank you for looking after my brother." Michael stared at him, bewildered. "Thank me?" he echoed weakly. The Hell Angel nodded. "That kid, he's all I've got left. After our parents died, I've had to keep him safe on my own." His gaze hardened. "And I don't take kindly to anyone who tries to hurt him." Michael swallowed hard. I didn't mean any harm. I just couldn't let him freeze out there." "I know." The biker's expression softened slightly. "That's why I'm here." He reached into his jacket and pulled out an envelope, handing it to Michael.
This is for you and your boy. Consider it insurance to make sure nothing happens to either of you." Michael stared at the envelope, bewildered. "I don't understand." "Just take it," the Hell Angel urged, "and know that as long as you keep your head down and don't cause any trouble, you and your son will be safe. No one will touch you. I give you my word." With that, he turned and disappeared, leaving Michael standing there, stunned and uncertain. Slowly, he opened the envelope, his eyes widening at the thick wad of cash inside. Was this the Hell Angel's way of protecting them? Michael couldn't quite wrap his head around it. This man was known for his ruthlessness, his violent temper, his complete disregard for the law.
Yet here he was, offering them his twisted version of a safeguard. Michael knew he should be terrified, should be thinking of ways to get as far away from this nightmare as possible. But as he looked at the money, he couldn't help but feel a glimmer of hope. With this, he could provide for his son, keep him safe and secure. Perhaps, in the Hell Angel's own twisted way, he was offering them a chance at a better life. Clutching the envelope tightly, Michael closed the door, his mind racing. Whatever happened next, he knew one thing for certain: his life would never be the same. Michael closed the door, heart still racing from the unexpected visit. He stared at the thick envelope in his hand, filled with the Hell Angel's strange form of protection money. As he moved to place it on the counter, a piece of paper fluttered to the floor. Bending down, Michael picked it up and felt his blood run cold. It was a photograph, a surveillance shot of Michael and his young son leaving their apartment, the date stamped in the corner. His hands trembling, Michael flipped it over to find a hastily scrawled message. "I'm watching. Don't even think about running." A chill swept through him. This was no idle threat. The Hell Angel clearly had eyes everywhere, tracking their every move. Michael clutched the photo, mind racing. What had he gotten them into? Had he just condemned his son to a life under the shadow of this ruthless criminal? Just then, a small voice called out from the bedroom. "Dad, what's wrong?" Michael quickly shoved the photo into his pocket, pasting on a reassuring smile as his son emerged, rubbing his eyes sleepily. "Nothing, buddy. Everything's fine." He forced a light-hearted tone. "How about we go get some breakfast, huh? My treat." The boy's face lit up. "Really? Can we get pancakes?" "Absolutely." Michael ruffled his son's hair, trying to ignore the sinking feeling in the pit of his stomach. "Pancakes it is." As they stepped out into the chilly morning air, Michael couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. He kept a tight grip on his son's hand, constantly scanning the shadows for any sign of danger. But the streets were quiet, the passers-by oblivious to the invisible threat that loomed over the pair. They reached the diner without incident, and Michael breathed a small sigh of relief as they slid into a cozy booth. The familiar scent of freshly brewed coffee and sizzling bacon eased his nerves ever so slightly. Maybe, just maybe, this would all blow over. But just as the waitress arrived with their steaming mugs, a commotion erupted near the front of the diner. Michael's head snapped up, heart pounding, as a group of rough-looking men in leather jackets stormed in, faces set in grim determination. "Everyone on the floor, now," one of them bellowed, brandishing a handgun. "This is a robbery." Shrieks of terror filled the air as the patrons scrambled to obey, cowering on the tile. Michael instinctively pulled his son close, shielding him with his body. "You!" The gunman's piercing gaze landed on Michael. "Get out from behind that table, old man." Swallowing hard, Michael slowly rose, hands trembling. "Please, don't hurt us," he pleaded. "We have no money, nothing to give you." The robber sneered. "Oh, I think you've got something for us." His eyes narrowed. "Where's the envelope?" Michael's blood ran cold. "I don't know what you're talking about." The man's expression darkened. "Don't play dumb with me." He took a menacing step forward. "The Hell Angel's little gift. Hand it over, now." A collective gasp went up from the terrified onlookers. Michael could feel their fearful eyes burning into him. This was no ordinary robbery. These men were after something specific, something that had to do with the most feared criminal in the city. Clutching his son tightly, Michael shook his head. "I won't give you anything. Please, just leave us alone." The robber's lips curled into a cruel smile. "Wrong answer, old man." He leveled the gun at Michael's head. "Now, one last time, where's the envelope?" Time seemed to slow to a crawl as Michael stared down the barrel of the weapon, his mind racing. This was it. He was going to die, right here in front of his son.
all because he'd tried to help a shivering child on the street. But just as the robber's finger tightened on the trigger, a thunderous crash echoed through the diner. Everyone flinched as the front doors burst open and a towering figure strode in, fury radiating from every step. "Get the hell away from them." The gravelly voice of the Hell Angel sent a collective shudder through the room. The robber whirled around, eyes wide with terror. "This doesn't concern you," he stammered. The biker's expression was ice cold. "I beg to differ." He took a slow, deliberate step forward. "That envelope belongs to me, and you're holding a gun to the man who's keeping it safe." The robber's hand trembled, the barrel wavering. I was just... Shut up." The Hell Angel's voice was a deadly whisper. "You've got 10 seconds to get out of my sight before I rip you apart with my bare hands." No one dared to breathe as the tense seconds ticked by. Then, with a frantic scramble, the robbers turned and fled, their thunderous footsteps echoing in the stunned silence. Michael stared at the imposing figure of the Hell Angel, relief and bewilderment warring within him. You saved us." The biker's gaze softened, just for a moment. "I told you I'd keep you safe, didn't I?" He glanced around the diner, his expression hardening. "Now everyone out. This place is closed for the day." As the terrified patrons hastily obeyed, Michael felt a tug on his sleeve. "Dad, what's going on?" his son whispered, eyes wide with fear. Michael opened his mouth, but the words caught in his throat.
How could he possibly explain this to a child? How could he make sense of it himself? Before he could respond, the Hell Angel's deep voice cut through the silence. "You two, stay. The rest of you, get lost." Shooting one last wary glance at the imposing figure, the last of the diner's customers hurried out, leaving Michael, his son, and the notorious gang leader alone. The boy pressed closer to his father, trembling. Michael wrapped a protective arm around him, his own heart pounding. What did the Hell Angel want with them now? The biker pulled up a chair, settling his massive frame into it with a heavy sigh. "You're a hard man to track down, Janitor." His piercing gaze fixed on Michael. "I've got a problem, and I need your help." Michael stared at him, utterly bewildered. "My help? But I'm nobody. Why would you need me?" The Hell Angel's expression darkened. "Because you're the only one I can trust." He leaned forward, his voice low and urgent. "Someone's trying to take my brother away from me, and I need you to help me stop them." Here is a new 1,600-word chapter that continues the story with a shocking plot twist. Michael stared at the imposing figure of the Hell Angel, utterly bewildered. Help him? This was the most feared criminal in the city, the ruthless leader of a dangerous biker gang. And yet, here he was, asking for Michael's help. "I don't understand," Michael said, tightening his grip on his son. "Why me? What could I possibly do to help you?" The biker's expression was grave. "Because you're the only one I can trust. Someone's trying to take my brother away from me, and I need to stop them, but I can't do it alone." Michael's mind raced. This was madness. Getting involved with the Hell Angel's problems could get them all killed, but the desperation in the man's eyes was undeniable. "What exactly do you need me to do?" Michael asked hesitantly. The Hell Angel leaned forward, his voice low and urgent. "My little brother, he's all I have left. After our parents died, I've had to protect him, keep him safe from the vultures in this city." His gaze hardened. "But now, someone's trying to take him away. The courts, social services, I don't know. All I know is that they're coming for him, and I can't let that happen." Michael felt a chill run down his spine. "What are you saying? You want me to help me what? Kidnap your brother?" "No, not kidnap," the biker corrected. "I just need you to keep him hidden, somewhere safe, until I can figure out how to stop them legally." He fixed Michael with a piercing stare. "You've already shown that you care about him. I'm trusting you to keep him safe." Michael's head was spinning. This was insanity. He couldn't possibly get involved in something this dangerous. And yet, the thought of that innocent child being taken from the only family he had, it made Michael's heart clench. "Please," the Hell Angel said, his voice uncharacteristically soft. "I can't lose him too."
Michael glanced down at his son, who was watching the exchange with wide, frightened eyes. Could he really put his child at risk like this? But then he thought of the boy on the street, shivering in the cold, and how he hadn't been able to turn a blind eye. Steeling himself, Michael looked the Hell Angel square in the eye. "All right, I'll help you." The biker's expression softened with obvious relief. "Thank you." He reached into his jacket and pulled out a set of keys. "Here's the address. It's a safe house, off the grid. Take my brother there and keep him hidden until I can figure this out." Michael hesitantly took the keys, his hand trembling slightly. "And what if they come looking for him? What if they find us?" The Hell Angel's gaze hardened. "Then you do whatever it takes to protect him, no matter what." Michael swallowed hard, a chill running down his spine. I don't know if I can." "You have to," the biker interrupted, his voice brooking no argument. "That boy's life is in your hands now. Don't let me down." Before Michael could respond, the sound of sirens pierced the air, drawing closer by the second. The Hell Angel's expression darkened. "That's my cue to leave." He stood, towering over Michael. "Take care of him, Janitor. And remember, no one can know where he is." With that, he turned and strode out of the diner, disappearing into the chaos outside just as the police cars screeched to a halt. Michael stared after him, heart pounding. What had he just agreed to? He was in over his head, tangled up in a world he couldn't possibly understand. But as he looked down at his son's frightened face, he knew he couldn't back out now. Gripping the keys tightly, he ushered the boy out the back, keeping his head down as they slipped through the gathering crowd of onlookers and police. They had to get to that safe house, had to keep the Hell Angel's brother hidden and safe. But as they hurried through the darkened streets, Michael couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. The hairs on the back of his neck stood on end, and he kept glancing nervously over his shoulder, half expecting to see a shadowy figure lurking in the alleyways. Finally, they reached the address the Hell Angel had given him, a nondescript, two-story house on the outskirts of the city. Swallowing hard, Michael ushered his son inside, locking the door behind them. The house was sparsely furnished, but clean and well-maintained. Michael led the boy upstairs to a small bedroom, hoping he would feel safe and secure here. "All right, buddy, this is where we're going to be staying for a little while, okay?" His son looked up at him, eyes wide. "Why, Dad? What's going on?" Michael hesitated, unsure of how much to reveal. "It's a long story, but I need you to trust me, all right? This is important." The boy nodded slowly, sensing the gravity of the situation. "Okay, Dad, I trust you." Michael pulled him into a tight hug, his own heart racing. "That's my boy."
He pulled back, offering a reassuring smile. "Why don't you get settled in? I'm going to go make sure the house is secure." As he left the room, Michael's smile faded, replaced by a look of deep concern. He moved from room to room, locking windows and checking for any signs of intruders, but the house seemed undisturbed, and he let out a small sigh of relief. Returning to the living room, he sank into the worn sofa, running a hand through his hair. What had he gotten them into? Sheltering the younger brother of the notorious Hell Angel was a recipe for disaster. If anyone found out, they were as good as dead. Just then, a sudden noise from the kitchen made him jump. Steeling himself, he crept toward the doorway, heart pounding. But the sight that greeted him made his blood run cold. A young man, no more than 25, was rummaging through the cabinets, his back to Michael, and on the kitchen table, a large, menacing-looking gun gleamed in the dim light. "Who are you?" Michael demanded, his voice shaking. "What are you doing in my house?" The man whirled around, eyes widening in surprise. "Shit!" He quickly raised the gun, training it on Michael. "Where is he?" Michael held up his hands, terror coursing through him. I don't know what you're talking about. Please just leave us alone." The intruder's expression hardened. "Don't play dumb with me, old man. I know the Hell Angel's little brother is here. Now where is he?" Michael's mind raced. This must be one of the people trying to take the boy away. He couldn't let them find him no matter what. "I told you I don't know anything. Please just go." The man's grip on the gun tightened. "Wrong answer." He took a step forward, his eyes narrowing. "Now I'm only going to ask one more time. Where is he?" Michael's heart pounded in his ears. He had to stall, had to find a way to get his son to safety. I can't tell you that," he swallowed hard, "but maybe we can make a deal." The intruder let out a harsh laugh. "A deal? You're in no position to be making deals, old man." He raised the gun, leveling it at Michael's head. "Time's up. Now tell me where he is, or I'll—" But he never got to finish his threat. A sudden, deafening bang echoed through the kitchen, and the intruder crumbled to the floor, a crimson stain blossoming on his chest. Michael stared in horror, frozen in place. What the hell had just happened? Slowly he turned, and his heart nearly stopped at the sight that greeted him.
There, in the doorway, stood the Hell Angel, a smoking gun in his hand. His expression was grim, his eyes devoid of any emotion. "You shouldn't have come here," the biker growled, his voice low and deadly. Michael's mouth went dry. I didn't know what else to do." The Hell Angel's gaze softened just for a moment. "I know." He glanced down at the lifeless body on the floor. "But now, there's no going back." Michael felt like he was going to be sick.
He had never imagined that getting involved with the Hell Angel would lead to this, to someone being killed right in front of him. What am I supposed to do now? The biker's expression was grim. "We need to get rid of the body." And then he paused, his eyes narrowing. "Then we need to find out who else is after my brother." Michael's head was spinning. This was a nightmare, a living hell. But as he thought of his son, cowering upstairs, he knew there was no turning back. He had to see this through, no matter the cost. Swallowing hard, he nodded. "Okay, what do I need to do?" The Hell Angel's lips twitched in the faintest of smiles. "That's what I like to hear, Janitor." He gestured toward the body. "Let's get to work." As they began to move the lifeless form, Michael couldn't help but wonder what other horrors lay in store. He had entered a world of darkness and violence, and there was no telling how deep he and his son would have to go to escape it. All he knew was that he had to protect his child, no matter the cost. This was a path of no return, and Michael had a sinking feeling that the worst was yet to come. Here is a new 1,600-word chapter that continues the story with a shocking plot twist. Michael's hands trembled as he and the Hell Angel dragged the intruder's lifeless body out of the kitchen. His mind was racing, trying to process what had just happened. The sudden appearance of the armed man, the deafening gunshot, the Hell Angel's cold, ruthless actions. This was a nightmare, a living hell. Michael had gotten himself and his son tangled up in a world of violence and darkness, and now there was no going back. As they dumped the body into the trunk of the Hell Angel's car, Michael felt a wave of nausea wash over him. "What are we going to do with him?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. The biker's expression was grim. "We can't leave any trace. He has to disappear completely." Michael swallowed hard, his stomach churning. "But won't people come looking for him?" The Hell Angel's gaze hardened. "Not if we do this right." He slammed the trunk closed, fixing Michael with a piercing stare. "You remember where the safe house is, right?" Michael nodded mutely, his mind spinning. "Good." The biker pulled a set of keys from his pocket and pressed them into Michael's hand. "Take my brother there, and don't let him out of your sight. I'll take care of this mess." Michael felt a surge of panic. Wait, you're not coming with us?" "I can't." The Hell Angel's expression softened, just for a moment. "I've got some other things to take care of, but I'll be back as soon as I can." "But what if they come after us?" Michael's voice trembled. "What if they find us?" The biker's gaze hardened. "Then you do whatever it takes to protect him, no matter what." Michael stared at him, horrified. "You can't mean—" "I mean it, Janitor." The Hell Angel's voice was low and deadly. "That boy's life is in your hands now. Don't let me down." Before Michael could respond, the sound of sirens in the distance made them both freeze. The biker's expression darkened. "You need to get out of here, now." Michael hesitated, his heart pounding. "But what about you?" The Hell Angel's lips curled into the faintest of smiles. "Don't worry about me, old man. I can handle myself." He gave Michael a gentle push toward the car. "Now go, and remember, no one can know where you're going." Michael wanted to protest, to beg the biker to come with them, but the approaching sirens left him no choice. Clutching the keys tightly, he hurried to the car, his son waiting anxiously in the passenger seat. As Michael peeled out of the driveway, he glanced in the rearview mirror, catching a glimpse of the Hell Angel striding back toward the house, his massive frame silhouetted against the gathering darkness. Michael's heart sank, a wave of dread washing over him. What had he gotten them into? They drove in tense silence, Michael's mind racing. Every shadow, every movement in the rearview mirror made him jump. He half expected to see flashing lights in the distance, sirens closing in on them. Finally, they reached the safe house, and Michael ushered his son inside, locking the door behind them. The boy looked up at him, his eyes wide with fear. "Dad,
What's going on? Where are we?" Michael pulled him into a tight hug, his own heart racing. It's a long story, buddy, but I need you to trust me, okay? This is important." The boy nodded, sensing the gravity of the situation. "Okay, Dad, I trust you." Michael managed a weak smile, trying to reassure his son, but as he pulled away, a sudden movement outside the window made him freeze. Steeling himself, he peered out, his blood running cold at the sight of a dark van parked across the street, its engine idling. His hands trembled as he pulled the curtains closed, ushering his son deeper into the house. "Dad, what's wrong?" the boy asked, his voice small. Nothing," Michael lied, his mind racing. "Just stay close to me, all right? Don't go anywhere by yourself." The boy nodded, his brow furrowed with worry. Michael knew he was terrified, and he cursed himself for getting them into this mess. They huddled in the living room, the ticking of the clock the only sound that broke the tense silence. Michael's heart pounded in his ears as he strained to hear any sign of movement outside. Then, suddenly, a loud crash from the kitchen made them both jump. Michael thrust his son behind him, his hands shaking as he searched for a weapon, anything to defend them. Slowly, he crept toward the kitchen, his breath catching in his throat as he rounded the corner. There, standing amidst the shattered remnants of a broken window, was a masked intruder, a gun in his hand. Michael froze, terror coursing through him. "Please," he pleaded, "don't hurt us. Take whatever you want. Just leave us alone." The intruder's dark eyes narrowed behind the mask.
"I'm not here for your money, old man." He took a step forward, the gun pointed directly at Michael's head. "I'm here for the boy." Michael's blood ran cold. "No," he whispered, his heart pounding. "You can't have him." The intruder let out a harsh laugh. "I'm afraid you don't have a choice." He took another step forward, his finger tightening on the trigger. But before he could fire, a sudden blur of motion erupted from the living room. Michael's son, his eyes wild with fear, threw himself at the intruder, knocking the gun from his hand. The intruder let out a startled cry, staggering backward. Michael didn't hesitate, lunging forward and tackling the man to the ground. They grappled and wrestled, Michael's desperation fueling his every move. Suddenly, the intruder's hand closed around the discarded gun, and Michael felt a surge of panic. But just as the man raised the weapon, a deafening bang echoed through the house. Michael flinched, expecting the worst. But when he looked up, it was the intruder who lay motionless on the floor, a crimson stain blossoming on his chest. Trembling, Michael turned to see his son standing there, a smoking gun in his hands. The boy's eyes were wide with shock, his face pale. "Dad," he whispered, his voice barely audible. I didn't mean to." Michael felt a wave of nausea wash over him. His son, his precious child, had just taken a life. He pulled the boy into a tight hug, his own heart pounding. "It's okay," he murmured, his voice shaking. "It's going to be okay." But as he held his son, a chill ran down his spine. What had he gotten them into? And what other horrors were they destined to face in this twisted web of violence and darkness? The sound of sirens in the distance made them both freeze. Michael's gaze darted to body on the floor, and he felt a surge of panic. "We have to go," he said, his voice low and urgent. "We can't be here when the police arrive." His son looked up at him, his eyes filled with fear and confusion. "But what about him?" he asked, gesturing to the lifeless form. Michael swallowed hard. "We can't do anything for him now," he said, his heart clenching. "We have to think about ourselves, about our own survival." Grabbing his son's hand, he led him out of the house, his mind racing. Where could they go? How could they possibly escape this nightmare? As they hurried down the deserted street, Michael couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. Every shadow, every movement in the corner of his eye made him jump. And then, just as they reached the end of the block, a familiar figure stepped out of the darkness, his massive frame silhouetted against the street lights. The Hell Angel? Michael felt a surge of relief, but it was quickly replaced by a sense of dread. What if the biker had discovered what had happened? What his son had done? The Hell Angel's gaze swept over them, his expression unreadable. "You need to get out of here," he said, his voice low and urgent. "They're coming." Michael's heart pounded. "Who's coming?" The biker's eyes narrowed. "Everyone."
Before Michael could respond, the sound of sirens echoed in the distance, growing closer by the second. The Hell Angel gave them a gentle push. "Go," he said, his voice brooking no argument. "I'll hold them off as long as I can." Michael stared at him, torn. "But what about you?" The biker's lips curved into the faintest of smiles. "Don't worry about me, Janitor. Just take care of my brother." With that, he turned and melted back into the shadows, leaving Michael and his son to face the gathering storm alone. Michael's mind raced as he hurried away, his son's hand gripped tightly in his own. Where could they go? How could they possibly escape this nightmare? And what other horrors were they destined to face in this twisted world of violence and darkness? As they disappeared into the night, Michael couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched, that the shadows were closing in around them. This was a path of no return, and he had a sinking feeling that the worst was yet to come. Here is a new 1,600-word chapter that continues the story with a shocking plot twist. Michael's legs ached as he and his son hurried down the dark alley, their footsteps echoing against the crumbling walls. His heart was pounding, fear coursing through him with every step. They had to get away, had to lose whoever was chasing them. But Michael had no idea where they were going, no plan for how to escape this nightmare. All he knew was that he had to protect his son at all costs. The sound of sirens in the distance made them both freeze, terror etched on the boy's face. "Dad, what are we going to do?" he whispered, his voice trembling. Michael gripped his son's hand tighter, trying to steady his own shaking. "We're going to be okay, buddy," he said, forcing a reassuring tone. "We just have to keep moving, all right?" The boy nodded, his eyes wide, and they pressed on, deeper into the maze of alleys. Michael's mind raced, trying to remember the layout of the neighborhood, to find a way out of this. Suddenly, a dark figure materialized in front of them, blocking their path. Michael yanked his son behind him, his heart in his throat. But as the figure stepped into the dim light, Michael felt a surge of both relief and dread. It was the Hell Angel, his massive frame silhouetted against the distant street lamps. "You need to get out of here now," he growled, his voice low and urgent. Michael stared at him, torn. "What about you? What's going on?" The biker's expression was grim. "They're coming for all of us. You need to disappear before they find you." Michael's blood ran cold. "Who's coming?" The Hell Angel's eyes narrowed. "The cops? The feds? I don't know. All I know is that they're closing in, and we're all in their crosshairs." Michael's mind reeled.
But how? How could they possibly know where we are? The biker let out a heavy sigh. Someone must have talked, ratted us out. His gaze hardened, and I think I know who. Michael felt a chill run down his spine. "You don't mean—" The Hell Angel nodded, his expression dark. "My brother." Michael stared at him stunned. But why? Why would he betray you like that? The biker's lips carved into a bitter smile. "Because he's not my brother anymore. Not really." He shook his head, a flash of pain crossing his face. "He made a deal with them, traded me in to save his own skin." Michael felt sick to his stomach. How could someone do that to their own family, to the person who had protected them, kept them safe all these years? The Hell Angel's voice cut through the silence, laced with a mixture of anger and resignation. "Doesn't matter now. What's done is done." He turned his piercing gaze to Michael. "You need to get out of here before they find you." Michael's grip on his son's hand tightened. "But where can we go? They'll be looking for us everywhere." The biker's expression darkened. "There's an old warehouse on the edge of the city. It's off the grid. No one will think to look for you there." He pressed a set of keys into Michael's hand. "Take my bike. It's faster than a car. And keep your heads down. Don't trust anyone." Michael felt his heart pounding in his ears. "What about you? What are you going to do?" The Hell Angel's eyes narrowed. "I'm going to buy you some time." He turned to leave, then paused, fixing Michael with a piercing stare. "Remember, you never saw me, and you don't know anything about what's going on." Before Michael could respond, the biker melted back into the shadows, leaving them alone in the dim alley. Swallowing hard, Michael ushered his son toward the motorcycle, his mind racing. This was madness. How had everything spiraled so far out of control? One moment, they were hiding from the law, and the next, they were running from someone even more dangerous, the Hell Angel's own brother. As they sped through the empty streets, Michael kept his head on the swivel, his nerves on edge. The roar of the motorcycle seemed deafening in the silence, and he half expected to see flashing lights in the rearview mirror at any moment. Finally, they reached the dilapidated warehouse, and Michael hastily ushered his son inside, locking the door behind them. The place was dimly lit and musty, but it seemed secure enough. "Dad, what's going on?" the boy asked, his voice trembling. "Who's after us?" Michael pulled him into a tight hug, his own heart pounding. It's a long story, buddy,
But you're safe now, okay? I won't let anything happen to you." The boy nodded, but Michael could see the fear and confusion in his eyes. He was just a child, caught up in a nightmare that was far beyond his understanding.
Leaving his son in the relative safety of the warehouse, Michael cautiously made his way through the building, searching for anything that could be used as a weapon. His hands shook as he found an old baseball bat, gripping it tightly. Suddenly, a noise from the front of the warehouse made him freeze, his heart leaping into his throat. Slowly, he crept toward the sound, the bat raised in a defensive stance. But what he saw made his blood run cold. There, standing in the middle of the cavernous space, was the Hell Angel's brother, a young man with a cold, calculating expression on his face. And beside him, held at gunpoint, was the Hell Angel himself. Michael felt a surge of panic. What is this?" he stammered, his voice shaking. The young man turned to him, a cruel smile spreading across his face. "Well, well, look who decided to join the party." He gestured toward the Hell Angel with his gun. "Your friend here and I were just having a little chat." The biker's expression was one of pure fury, but Michael could see the underlying fear in his eyes. "Let him go," the Hell Angel growled, his voice low and dangerous. The young man let out a harsh laugh. "Oh, I don't think so." He leveled the gun at the biker's head. "You see, I've got a much better idea." Michael's mind raced, his grip tightening on the baseball bat. "What do you want?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. The young man's gaze shifted to him, his eyes narrowing. "What I want is simple." He paused, a twisted smile spreading across his face. "I want you to kill him." Michael felt the blood drain from his face. "What? No, I can't." "Oh, but you can," the young man interrupted, his tone dripping with malice. "And you will if you want to keep your son alive." Michael's heart stopped, a surge of panic coursing through him. "You leave my son out of this," he shouted, his voice cracking with desperation. The young man's expression hardened. "Then do as I say." He pressed the gun against the Hell Angel's temple, his finger tightening on the trigger. "Kill him, or I'll kill both of you." Michael stared at the biker, his mind racing. The Hell Angel's gaze was steady, his expression unreadable. But Michael could see the resignation in his eyes, the acceptance of his fate. Slowly, Michael raised the baseball bat, his hands trembling. He couldn't do this, couldn't take another life. But the thought of his son, his innocent child, being caught in the crossfire, it was too much to bear. "I'm sorry," he whispered, his voice barely audible. The Hell Angel closed his eyes, his jaw set. "Do it," he said, his voice firm. Michael's vision blurred with tears as he swung the bat, the dull thud echoing through the cavernous space. The biker crumpled to the ground, unmoving. The young man's lips curled into a satisfied smile. "Well done, old man." He gestured toward the exit with his gun. "Now get out of here, and don't even think about going to the police."
Michael stared at the lifeless form of the Hell Angel, his heart shattering. He had done it, had taken the life of the man who had tried to protect them. And for what? To save his own son? Clutching the baseball bat, he turned and fled, his son's terrified cries ringing in his ears. They had to get out of here, had to find a way to escape this nightmare. But as they ran, Michael couldn't shake the weight of what he had done. He had become a killer, a man who had sacrificed another to save his own. And the guilt, the shame, threatened to consume him. Where could they go now? Who could they trust when the very people they thought they could rely on had turned against them? Michael's mind raced, 1,000 possibilities and dead ends swirling in his head. All he knew was that they had to keep running, keep hiding. Because if the young man's brother, the infamous Hell Angel, couldn't protect them, then no one could. This was a path of no return, and Michael had a sinking feeling that the worst was yet to come. Here is the 1,600-word final chapter that concludes the story. We ran and we ran, my son and I, our feet pounding the pavement as we tried to put as much distance as possible between us and that awful warehouse. I couldn't get the image out of my head, the Hell Angel, crumpling to the ground after I shook my head, trying to clear the memories. I had to stay focused, had to keep us safe. That young man, the Hell Angel's brother, was still out there,
and he wouldn't stop until he found us. We ducked into a dark alley, hiding behind a dumpster as the sound of sirens echoed in the distance. My son clung to me, trembling, and I held him close, trying to offer some sense of comfort and security. "It's going to be okay, buddy," I whispered, my voice shaking. "We're going to get through this, I promise." He looked up at me, his eyes filled with fear and confusion. "But Dad, what about him?" He didn't need to say the name. We both knew exactly who he was talking about. I swallowed hard, my heart clenching. I don't know, son. I just don't know." The truth was, I had no idea what was going to happen. The Hell Angel was gone, killed by my own hand, and now we were on the run, hunted by his vengeful brother. It was a nightmare, a living hell, and I had no idea how we were going to escape it. As the sirens faded, we cautiously emerged from our hiding spot, slipping through the shadows and back onto the deserted streets. We had to find someplace safe, someplace to hide. But where? I racked my brain, trying to remember the Hell Angel's words. "The old warehouse," he had said. "It was off the grid. No one would think to look for us there." But could we really trust that? After everything that had happened, how could I be sure we'd be safe anywhere? Still, it was the only lead we had. Gripping my son's hand tightly, I led us toward the warehouse, my heart pounding with every step.
The building loomed before us, dark and foreboding, and I felt a chill run down my spine. Slowly, we pushed open the door, our footsteps echoing in the cavernous space. I scanned the shadows, searching for any sign of danger, but the place seemed deserted. "Stay close to me, okay?" I whispered to my son, and he nodded, his small hand clinging to mine. We moved deeper into the warehouse, our senses on high alert. And then, just as we rounded a corner, a figure emerged from the darkness, causing us both to freeze. It was the Hell Angel's brother, his eyes narrowed, a gun clutched in his hand. The young man's struggles grew weaker, his expression one of pure terror. And then, with a final, desperate gasp, he went limp, his eyes closing as the life drained from him. The Hell Angel held him there for a moment, his expression unreadable. Then, slowly, he rose, turning his attention to us. I felt my heart skip a beat, my grip on my son tightening. Was he going to come after us next? But as he approached, I saw something in his eyes that I hadn't expected, a glimmer of regret? Sorrow? I'm sorry you had to see that, he said, his voice uncharacteristically soft. I stared at him, dumbfounded. Sorry? After everything that's happened, after everything you've done, you're sorry? The biker let out a heavy sigh. I never wanted any of this. I just wanted to protect my brother. That's all I've ever wanted. I shook my head, my mind reeling. But he betrayed you. He was going to get us killed. The Hell Angel's gaze darkened. I know, and that's why I had to stop him. He paused, his expression softening. But I never wanted it to end like this. I felt a surge of anger, of resentment. Well, it's a little late for that, don't you think? I glanced down at my son, who was watching the exchange with wide, fearful eyes. We're in this mess because of you, because of your family drama. The biker's expression hardened. I know, and I can't change what's happened. He took a step toward us, and I instinctively pulled my son closer. But I can try to make it right. I stared at him, baffled. What are you talking about? The Hell Angel reached into his jacket, pulling out a set of keys. Take my bike. Get as far away from here as you can. He pressed the keys into my hand, his gaze intense. Start a new life, somewhere safe, somewhere they'll never find you. I felt a surge of disbelief. You're letting us go? The biker nodded. You and your son, you've been through enough. You deserve a chance to start over, to live in peace. I searched his face, trying to find some trace of deception, of ulterior motive, but all I saw was a weary acceptance, a resignation to the path he had chosen. Why? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. After everything, why are you doing this? The Hell Angel's lips curved into the faintest smiles. Because he glanced down at the lifeless form of his brother, a flicker of sadness crossing his face. Because I've lost enough. I won't let you and your son become another casualty in this war. I felt a lump form in my throat, a surge of gratitude and disbelief washing over me. I don't know what to say. The biker nodded. Then don't say anything. Just go. Live the life I never could. I stared at him, torn. Part of me wanted to stay, to somehow repay the debt I owed him. But as I looked at my son, saw the fear and uncertainty in his eyes, I knew what I had to do. Thank you, I whispered, my voice thick with emotion. For everything.
The Hell Angel's expression softened, just for a moment. Take care of him, Janitor. That's all the thanks I need. With that, he turned and disappeared back into the shadows, leaving us alone in the eerie silence of the warehouse. I took a deep, shuddering breath, then ushered my son toward the exit, the keys clutched tightly in my hand. As we roared away on the motorcycle, the city lights fading in the rearview mirror, I couldn't help but glance back, wondering what would become of the Hell Angel. Would he find the peace, the redemption that had eluded him for so long? I didn't have the answers, and in that moment, I didn't care. All that mattered was getting my son to safety, starting a new life, far away from the darkness and violence that had threatened to consume us. It wouldn't be easy, I knew that much. The scars of this ordeal would linger, the memories forever etched in our minds. But as I looked at my son, his small hand gripping mine, I felt a glimmer of hope, a determination to build a better future for us both. This was our chance to start over, to leave the past behind. And though the road ahead was uncertain, I knew that as long as we had each other, we could face whatever challenges came our way. It was a new beginning, a chance to reclaim our lives, our freedom. And in that moment, as we sped toward the horizon,
That was all that mattered.